Well, let's get started. I know there might be some people coming in around 1:30 just because of time school got out and all that. But I think all of you saw the sign-in link. If not, I can give you this in just a little bit. But a little bit about me. Go back. I'm Katie Jones. I am an education consultant for Promethean. I work in the Northern California range. This is my email address if you need anything. I am not your actual education consultant. Napa will be getting someone just for your school district. So pretty soon we'll know who that is. They're finishing up hiring and contracts and all that. So I don't even know who it is, but you will have someone. But for now, I can take all questions, comments, concerns, and then I can forward those to that person once that person is around. Another good accounts to follow, Learn Promethean. It's a website, a blog, there's Twitter, everything. Learn Promethean is your go-to tool. So if you don't remember anything else today, let's see if we can shut this. If you don't remember anything else today, Learn Promethean is the one thing to remember. That is a website that has all videos, articles, different things for you to look at if you have any questions. So if you don't remember how to get to your whiteboard, if you don't remember how to plug in your computer or do screen sharing or anything like that, all you have to do is type it in and it'll bring you to videos. So that is the best resource I can give you. And that's also a Twitter handle. They put out things once a week, twice a week, just anything in the education technology field that might interest you. A little bit about me. I am originally from Reno. I have taught for 5 years, K all the way up to 5th. I got a master's in business administration, and I love to camp and ski. I have a passion for education and technology, and so when this position came to my eye, I went for it so that I can still help children by helping teachers learn technology. And I love to travel, so that helps with this position as well. All right, so enough about me. Let's talk about these panels. So, do you all have these in your classrooms yet? Some yes, some no. Okay. But you will be getting them, so that's the important part, right? Cool. Does anyone, what do you want to get out of today? I can stand up here and talk at you for hours and hours, but what do you want to get out of it? Yeah.
So I've been using it and just, figuring stuff out as I go along, but today, during the period, actually just this last hour,
yeah,
it locked up on me.
Okay.
And I was on a Google presentation, and I went to hit it, just trying to move on, and it erased a whole bunch of stuff that was on the slide. And so my question, my kids were like, just turn it off and turn it back on again, and it's still staying locked.
Okay.
And so I want to know, when it gets locked, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, troubleshooting. Were you on your Chromebox or were you on the panel? Do you know?
Well, I was, both, because I was online with Google.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about troubleshooting. A lot of times, sometimes if you're specifically using your Chromebox, which for those of you who don't know, this panel has a little black box right here. If you can't see it. This is a full-on computer that is attached to the back of your panel. It's just like a Chromebook that your students have in your classroom. It is the storage of a small Chromebook. It does everything that a small Chromebook would. So if you're using that, sometimes the touch component will come off because it thinks that it's a computer and not necessarily a touch screen. So if that does happen, the best thing to do is just to go out of your source, go back to the home screen, and then go back to it. So.
And then I have another question about that. I'm sorry. Every morning I come in, I'm having to turn that back on.
Yes.
Leave the panel on. So is that normal?
Yes and no. Right now, your IT has the settings set to idle. We're working with them on getting that taken off so that your Chromebox stays on. Because once again, so I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but that's all right. The source button right here HDMI 2 is your Chromebook or your Chromebox. If that doesn't come up, if it says no sources, that means that it's off and you just need to turn it on. We'll come back to this, so don't worry if you don't remember that right away. Anything else? Yeah.
I'm going to go back like 52 steps.
Awesome, perfect.
I have one in my room,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to be selfish and be like, this is what I want, but if enough people also agree, like, I don't think this is what this button does, this is what this button
Yes.
does.
Mm-hmm.
Basic, this is how you turn it off, this is how you turn it on. That's where I'm at.
Cool, awesome, that's great. Yeah.
I'm the tech person in our school, so I figured I should know this.
Yeah.
The person who has been in this room, we have back to school night tonight, so she couldn't come.
Mm-hmm.
So she did leave me some questions.
Awesome, perfect.
Do you want to know them now or later?
For that, let's hold off if I answer them as we go.
Okay.
If you just want to take notes on that, and then if I don't answer anything, will you just ask me and I'll make sure to get to her questions?
Can you even read them real quick?
Yeah, sure. Cool.
It's her question.
All right, creating folders for charts. How does the class panel work? Casting, things like that. Awesome.
We did notice when
Cool.
drawing on it.
Yes, so we'll talk a lot about our whiteboard, our touch points. This panel, a few fun facts about it, there's 20 points of touch. So if anything touches it, it doesn't matter what it is, it thinks it's a
But when
touch.
you write, can you touch it with your hand?
Yes, so we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to our whiteboard. Anything else that you guys want to get out of today? Yeah.
I want to know the benefit of the Chromebox versus a Chromecast. I don't understand the necessity of attaching a Chromebox to this if you can use a Chromecast.
Okay, perfect.
And what the difference
So
is.
a lot of things with the casting services, with any casting service, it's transmitting over Wi-Fi instead of being hardwired in. So lag, different things, especially with audio. This is a 4K panel, so just with picture quality. If you're casting it, a lot of times some of that can get lost, but if it's actually hardwired in, it can be a clearer picture, a faster connection. Basically, the IT department here wanted you guys to have a fully functioning computer at your panel. So you won't even need the computer. Your personal computers, your district given computers can be more of a tool for you at home, a tool for you at your desk. Once you're up at the panel, you can just be using the panel.
Even to type?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's get into that and kind of get back to just the basics. But I just really wanted to hear where you guys wanted to go with today. Yeah.
And also maybe to explore like some additional software. I know some use like ActiveCast in here, and maybe just kind of go over those things.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, let's get to all of that today. Basics. This is your panel. It is 4K, so the quality of the picture is amazing. We'll show you some videos on it just so you can see just what it can do. Looking at it, this is the Titanium series. So if you go to Learn Promethean and you're looking up what panel do I even have, you have the Titanium. That is the top of the top. You also have your Chromebox, which we talked about before, and that's attached. Looking at your panel, you have these two little sensors. It looks like a little black button in the corner of your panel. Those are sensors that it basically wakes up the internal computer when it senses someone or something entering the room. So if my panel is completely off, which is the power button, if it's completely off, it's going to look like this. It has one red button lit up. This is completely off. So when I walk into my classroom in the morning, my panel will be completely off. When it senses me, as it did, it will turn to white. When it turns to white, it will be much easier to wake up. It will be a fast wake up. Oh, hold on, my computer's plugged in. It thinks that we're still in it. If your panel turns all the way off to red, it's a fast wake up, okay? So there's three settings. On, which has two white buttons, a white flame and a white power. Sleep, which still has your white flame and a red power button. Sleep is what you would want to go to just like when you turn your phone off, but it's not all the way off. If you go to the restroom, if your kids go to recess, if they go to lunch, sleep just shuts off just turns the display off. On sleep mode, I can touch it to wake it up, just as I would on my phone. So sleep mode isn't necessarily the best option for overnight because, like I said, this panel is full of sensors. If in the middle of the night a fly comes and lands on your screen, it's going to wake it up. So sleep mode isn't what you want to leave it in full time. To turn it all the way off, you just hold your power button until that flame turns off. So completely off would just be red. Sleep mode would be red with a white flame, and it would be on when you have white buttons for both. All right. While the panel's off, we can talk a little bit about fingerprints. As you can see, I already have put some on it. Fingerprints are not the most attractive thing when you walk into a classroom to see a panel that has marks all over it. That does show that your students have been using it. So when I walk into a classroom that has marks all over a panel, I think that's a great thing. But a lot of teachers don't want their panels to look like someone just smeared their lunch peanut butter and jelly all over it. So how do we clean it? Please, please, please don't spray directly onto the panel. The panel is very, very thick glass. I can knock it and not break it. This is thicker than the glass windshield of your car. But down in this thing that we call the bezel that lives all the way around it are little tiny lasers. That's what feel my touch. It doesn't have a push touch like your phone does sometimes. It notices touch from the lasers. So if you spray directly onto it, it really can fry a lot within your panel. So instead, the best way to clean it is actually with a microfiber cloth. So these, I got this one at the dollar store actually. You can get them on Amazon for super cheap. Same thing like with your glasses cleaner, that would work. You can just use a dry cloth and wipe it. Especially if you teach younger grades and you have germy little hands, you can spray Windex directly onto the cloth and then wipe your panel. That Windex has some of those cleaning agents to get rid of those germs. A couple things to not use. I would not ever use Clorox wipes or anything like that. It's going to leave a film on top of it, and also it's going to really hurt your fingertips when you're touching the board. Okay? If you want, you can mix a solution of like a rubbing alcohol type base and water, 50-50, but that Windex is really the best way to clean this. So, all right, let's go through the rest of our buttons. We've already talked about the power button. The next buttons are your volume, up and down. These are a little self-explanatory. However, when you touch it, you don't have to just stand here and click the button. That's really annoying to have to bend over in front of your class, make sure that your shirts are all good, and click, 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 click. You can just slide. Once you open the settings, you can slide your volume. You can also slide your brightness and get your screen brighter or dimmer. The settings also can lead you to more settings. This looks a lot like an Android cell phone because this is an Android-based board. A lot of these settings you probably don't need to use. This is more for your IT people, but however, if you needed to fix your time, wallpaper, things like that, that's where you get to it. So all I did to get here was I pressed my up or down volume button and pressed more settings. Another thing to look at on my volume button is this thing called normal mode. My menus on the side, the bottom, and my other side are one size. When I press large mode, it increases how big these buttons are. Some people want them smaller, so they take up less space. Some people like it larger so that your class can actually read what it says and they can start to learn how to use the panel as well. It's personal choice, but that is all on your settings, which is found just from that volume button. Two other important things that are on this to look at. It's called palm mode and second pen mode. A lot of this has to do with the whiteboard, which we'll get to. Palm mode, if you have it enabled, you can turn your palm into an eraser, okay? So if you walk into a panel and you try and erase with your palm and it doesn't work, check to make sure that that's on, okay? Same thing with the second pen. We'll get to that in the whiteboard. The next button is the flame button. The flame button brings up our menu on the bottom. You can also get to it just by touching any of those little arrow, caret things. The next button is a snowflake. Now the snowflake does exactly that. It freezes. I know there's not a ton of snow in Napa, but that snowflake does freeze your image. The thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't freeze your touch. So even though the image in the background stays the same, I can still touch my board. The reason that this would be helpful if you were streaming something, if you were projecting something from your computer, or you had a different device plugged in and you wanted it to stay on while you went to check your email or something, the freeze button would be helpful. If you want your students to not be able to touch things, that's when you press this little finger that looks like it has a halo around it. That is your no touch. So if no touch is on, I cannot open anything on my board. Now, that's also important to remember. If your board has no touch and you can't figure out why things aren't working, check to make sure that this button isn't here. All right? Those are just super basic buttons. Your boards also come with a remote that has all the same buttons. Okay? The remote sometimes gets lost, but they are on it. All right, let's get to the important stuff. Yeah?
I see a wireless keyboard. Is that something that we'll have access to now?
I'm not sure if you will be provided one or not, but I wanted to bring mine just to show you. Wireless keyboards are super helpful with the panel so that you can be anywhere in the room and still be able to type onto it. Mine also has a trackpad so that I can use my, I'll show you, so that I can use my finger as, I can use my keyboard and it acts like just a mouse on the screen, okay? So this was, I think, $18 on Amazon. Your district might be buying you some, your principals might individually be buying you some, but this is cool to have so that I could walk around my classroom and still have access to my panel. Okay.
And it doesn't have to be a special one?
No, this is just a Logitech one that I got on Amazon. Yeah.
You put the dongle in the front,
Mm-hmm.
and as opposed to putting it into the Chrome box on the back.
I could put it into any of those.
If you put it in the Chrome box now, it wouldn't function on the.
It depends on if your board is integrated, which I think it is, so it should work just the same. So speaking of Chromebox, let's talk about our source button. It's the last button on our board, and it's also found right here in my unified menu. The source button, it only shows, come on source button, it only shows what's plugged in. This is really, really cool. Promethean works for teachers by teachers. We all were teachers. Everyone on the product or the professional development team was a teacher. We know how annoying it is to go to switch source and have it say, not connected, not connected. And you're running around trying to plug things in and make sure, what did I do? Change input, trying to find how to get to your device. They changed it, so only things that are plugged in come up here. So right now, I have my HDMI 2 is my Chromebox. When I had my computer plugged in to the front, this was HDMI 1. So, oops. Come on, HDMI 1. When I have this plugged in, it should say HDMI 2 and HDMI 1. So only things that are plugged in are going to show up here. Now a tip, especially for HDMI 1. As you can see, this is kind of obnoxious to have this cord laying here. If you have children coming up to the board and you have something plugged in here, it's really easy for them to just lean on it and snap that thing right off. It's happened before in trainings. We always recommend that instead of plugging something right to the front of the board, try and plug it into the side instead. Okay, you have ports on the side. If you are the only one in your classroom just working on something, it would be fine to have something plugged in to the front. I wouldn't want my students coming up to the board and being able to lean and snap things off, because that's a pain to try and fish out the other end of your HDMI. So that's your source button. Your source, as I've said a million times, is your Chromebox HDMI 2. Please don't unplug this. Your Chromebox works just as a computer. We will get into it a little bit more, why we would need this. We've already said a little bit, just so that it can function fully by itself. If you want to show a YouTube video or any like multimedia content like that, using the Chromebox would be the best, just to have the best sound quality, image quality, all of that, because it's a full computer. You will also be able to get to all your Google Drive, your Google Forms, your Google Classroom, all of that through your Chromebox. So you can just pull all that up. You can work on things at home, create Google Docs, and then use them right there in your class the next day. So that is your source button. All right, getting back to our menu so that we can start getting our hands on this board. Your unified menu is found in 3 different places. That happens because, once again, we know that you don't always just teach from the same side of the room, and everyone has a preferred side that they like to stand on. All of my menu pops up here. When I open my locker, from this side of the menu, my locker opens by me. If I opened my locker from the bottom, it's gonna come up in the bottom. And if I open my locker from the side, it's gonna come up over there. They do that so that it stays where you are. When Promethean made these panels, they actually got a bunch of teachers and put little LCD lights on their fingers to see where they were going to find things on the panel. So they wanted to make this a lot easier on you to get to different things. So what's in the locker? Let's look at it. Apps. It's just like opening your start menu on your computer or your home screen on your phone. You have tons of apps here. Multiple pages. You can get to them just by clicking the button easily. Your favorite things, the most important things to know about this locker, your update lives in here. So if you think that your panel is running slow and needs to be updated, you can always check for updates. It'll tell you that you have the latest version, or it'll tell you if you have to update. That lives in your locker. Everything on this, yeah?
What's the local update?
The local update is for IT if they want to do an update for all the panels, and they have like a flash drive or something that has the update on it.
What's the camera? Is there a camera on there that?
Good question. This is an Android panel, as I said before, so a lot of our apps look the same as Android. This does not have a camera or a microphone built into it. The problem is, the reason why we did that, because a lot of people say, why? Like, it's not that hard to just put a camera in. The problem is, if we put a cheap camera up on the top and it breaks, then we have to replace the whole panel. We have to dig out the camera, put a different one in there. It's easier for you, for Promethean too, and for your tech admin, for you to get a portable camera that just has a USB plug-in, or your dock cam, which we've talked about a little bit. Just plug that right into the panel, and you'll be able to use the camera app to use it. So, it should be. Anything that you can plug in or anything that can Bluetooth to the panel. I know that I was over at Snow Elementary, and they had, let's do it in this one. They had cameras, or they had document cameras that their principal had gotten that worked great with this. So I'll have to see what it was. But you should, if this one works today, be able to plug in any sort of camera and have your document camera right here on your board. Okay, cool. So that lives in your locker. Let's close out of that.
Again, if you have that camera plugged into the Chromebox as opposed to the board, that's still going to come.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So your Chromebox is integrated so that it's all connected together. So you shouldn't have to be switching between the two. All right, so in your locker has everything in it, just like your locker at a high school would. You try and keep lots of things in it. Another cool thing that's in your locker is called Chromium. This is the free version of Chrome. So this is what you would use if you're just trying to find something quickly. So if I was trying to find, ooh, that's loud. So I can fix my volume. If I was trying to find, if I want to move my keyboard, I can just move it with my hand. If I wanted to find a picture of a tree, I could find this easy on Chromium. If I'm doing something with my curriculum, or if I'm doing something pretty deep into my Google Drive, I would use my Chromebox instead, just because this is like an iPhone browser or an Android browser. It's not as heavy as, like it's not as robust as looking something up on your computer. Yeah?
Is Chromium as good as using the Chromebox for, say, streaming on YouTube or something?
No, and I'll show you, if you stream on YouTube through Chromium, it looks fine. In a pinch it'll work. But if you want that crisp picture, it's like if I was watching YouTube on my computer versus on a phone with poor internet connection. It just depends on what you want it for, okay? So that's found in your locker. Other things that are found in your locker are your spinner and your timer. So we're gonna talk a little bit about our spinner first, and I'm gonna get you guys up practicing and playing with this. This is your spinner. Your spinner, you can move around the screen just by touching anywhere on this gray part. Your spinner can spin from it can spin left or right. There are preset spinners, colors, names, numbers, vowels, consonants, alphabet, and that you can create your own. Some cool things that you can use this for. How many people have used the popsicle sticks? Yeah, How many of you have students who watched and saw that their name came out of the popsicle stick and they didn't have to pay attention anymore because they weren't gonna get called on? This, under settings, you can choose to select an item only once. So if I'm spinning this and it landed on Ashley, if I spin it again, it's not going to land on Ashley again until every other student gets picked. Your students don't have to know about this, so they have no idea when they're going to get picked. The spinner has a sound. If you like it, you can keep it. If you hate it, you can take it away. One interesting idea that I've heard about the sound is using it as a classroom management tool. So if my class is very loud, not quieting down, and I'm waiting to pick on someone, I can spin and hold. And as I hold it, it's going to keep clicking until I let go. So if I was waiting for my class to pay attention, and then I let go of it, it's going to wait as long as I hold it. Yeah?
If you have multiple periods of students, does it allow for multiple lists?
Yeah, so you can put, in your list, you can put 44 things. So looking at the alphabet, you can have 44 things. As you have more of them, they're going to get smaller. And then you can have an unlimited amount of lists. So we have some lists already input for us, but I can create a new list, and I can create as many of these as I want. Okay, so if you have multiple periods, I would name it first period math, second period math, whatever I want to name that. Now this is a good time to have one of those plug-in keyboards, because I could stand up here in the front and type in first period math, or I could just type it on my keyboard. Either way, that's one of the benefits of having a plug-in keyboard. Yeah?
Is there an app on the phone where you can get a keyboard that would make keyboard?
They just created an app on the phone that you can pre-make. It's still in beta testing, but soon, I'm not sure when the release date is, you'll be able to pre-make your spinners and on your phone, and then in the morning it'll be on your board ready to go. So that's in the works, but as of right now, it's just typing it straight into your panel.
So there's no app that makes my phone keyboard for that yet?
Not yet, no. So the first line here is your title. So if you put someone's name on that first line, they're never going to get called on because they are the name of the list, okay? So make sure that you always name your list. Then you will type in names on the items, or you can have your students type in their name, because that way they get out of their seats. You don't have to stand up here and type everyone's name, and they get to touch this awesome new toy that they have in their classroom that they're dying to get their hands on. Okay? If you have someone leave your class, you can edit by pushing the little pencil button on the side, and, come on. Just trying to make a liar of me. If you edit, you can push, say Emily leaves your class, you can just touch the trash button and her name will go away. You can add new ones if you get new students, and then just press save to fix it. This can also go to full screen. And this will float on top of anything that's plugged in. So if I go to my Chromebox or if I go to my computer that's plugged in, this stays. This lives in on top of the panel. So anything that you have behind it, this still has every capability that it did before. If I have a DVD player plugged in and I'm playing a movie, I could still pull this up on top of it. Okay? What could we use this for? Who has any ideas? What could we use that spinner for in your classroom? Like, it's cool for names. What else could we use it for? Any good ideas? Yeah.
I heard about this EL strategy where maybe you're not calling names, but you know that you have blues and numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So
Yeah.
you spin and it goes red, and you spin, I need a 2.
Yeah. So then you have just whoever's the 2 has to, yeah. What else could we use it for in the classroom? Yeah.
You could put anything like you can spelling list, and then you could
Yeah.
have kids stand in front of it, look at the class, and they have to give you clues. What word is it? Guess it, then they win.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've heard of people putting vocabulary words on here. So for your weekly vocabulary unit, put the words on there. Have one of your students come up and spin it. Whatever they get, they have to tell the definition of. Anything else that we could do on this? There's endless possibilities. This is just another tool. It doesn't just have to be for names. It could be for lots of different things. I've seen just put A, B, C, D, and then anything you pull up on the screen, it could be 4 math problems. They spin it, they have to answer number 1, or number A. So there's lots of different things that you can do with that. And that, remember, that lives in your locker. It lives in your locker. It's called the spinner. To close out of it, you'll have to push that little X on the bottom of it. Right next to the spinner is something called the timer. The timer is equally as cool. It also floats, and it also lives in any single source that you're in. The timer is special because you can have 4 of them. So you can have 4 timers. You can have a clock. You can have a timer, or you can have a stopwatch, or you can have one of each, plus an extra. Some cool things about the clock, especially if you teach 2nd grade, your clock, you can make it digital or analog. If you're teaching about military time, you can add in the 24 hours. You can have the seconds if you choose. Or you could have a digital clock, and you could have an analog clock, go away, next to each other. And you could have your students trying to see, come on, this one's in the way. You could have your students telling the similarities and differences between the 2. Okay? On your timers, you can have presets for 30, 1 minute, 10 minutes, or an hour. You can also just up and down to change that time. One thing that is really cool about your timer is when it's in the big mode. So how I got there is I pushed these 2 little arrows to make it full screen. When it's in full screen, I can edit the names of these. Now, I've seen teachers who have 4 different groups in their room, or 4 different stations for rotations, and they want to have a competition, and they want to see which group can finish this task the fastest. So they go to stopwatch on all of them, or timer, either one. They rename their groups, group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, or the names of their groups, rabbits, raccoons, whatever their group names are. They start their timer and have their group start working. Now, as the students finish, the students come up and they stop the timer and they get to see which group finished the task first. Things like that are possible with this having 4 floating clocks or 4 clocks that you change the names on. The timer does not have a very loud bell, whistle, whatever you want to call it. So it counts down. That's the only choice on the sound, but it does turn off by itself. So especially if you set timers for fluency and you're in the back of the room helping a student on it and it goes off, you don't have to get up and run across the room to turn it off. It'll go off after 3. Once again, our volume is down pretty low right now, so that thing can be super loud. So make sure you check what the volume on your panel is before you have something like this go off. Any other ideas for stopwatch or timer or any reasons that you could use this? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I know like at the high school level, I have my kids do presentations, and I'll say you have to speak between this amount of time and this amount of time.
Perfect.
And so then if it's up on the corner screen while they're going through their slides, they're reminded of how much time they still have to speak.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this is it really does, you can push it, there's a limit to how far up you can push it up there, but you can push it off to the side so that it's not in their way. Right now, you can't get it any smaller. I know that's a common question. I was talking to our product team about it the other day. So hopefully in future updates, this will be able to get smaller, but right now this is the smallest size. Yeah.
I've used it for some kids, so like IEPs, and like they need to get up and walk around, and just for me to have a visual in the corner of when they need to be back.
Yeah.
So make sure they're following the little thing that they're actually.
Definitely. Sometimes just for us too to know, like just how the students need that time. I know, especially with science or things that I was really passionate about teaching, I had a tendency to just keep going. And then the kids would remind me, Miss Jones, it's time for lunch. And if I had that timer visually up on the screen, I would have been able to stop myself. So all of those live up here in the locker. What I want you guys to do is get up, get your hands on this, explore the panels, try and open the spinner and timer, play with it a little bit. I'll give you guys like 5 minutes and then we'll get back to diving more into the rest of this. So go ahead. If you have questions, I'm gonna just be up here, so come up, ask me. But definitely get your hands on these panels. They're super cool timers and spinners. Awesome.
So on the dock camera, can you, she's got one of those like, dock.
Yeah.
Can you get it like wirelessly to that, or it has to be pretty much attached?
I think it has to be attached for now.
I mean, the other thing is she could get like a little.
Yeah, a little one. Or a mobile document camera. If you're casting, you can use your phone as like a mobile.
I always use my iPad.
Yeah, or an iPad. Yeah, hey.
So I have my whole setup has got timers, and I've chosen the bell sounds, and I've got all that, and some are attached to music, and so I was wondering, do I go through Chromium to get there?
Is it on your computer already? So
yeah,
I would either just hardwire plug in your computer.
Okay.
Or you could cast it also. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm going to try plugging it in.
Yeah.
And so then it'll be exactly what's there, and the sounds and stuff will be there.
So the palm mode
Gets rid of your palm when you're writing.
Yes. And we'll talk a little bit about the whiteboard next. A way to tuck in. So if you hold your thumb, it kind of tucks everything in together. So when you're drawing or writing and you tuck that thumb, it's easier to not have your...
Well, we were doing it with the pen. And when we were writing, if my thing goes.
So it's just learning how to, if you hold back further on the pen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But palm mode, if I did, wouldn't take that away.
So palm mode turns your palm into an eraser.
Okay.
It's really fun.
So there's not really a way to change the writing setting to do sensitivity. It's just not learning to not rest your palm on the board.
And then she was doing saved whiteboards. Is there a way to put more than one saved one up to show?
It makes so that you can.
Unfortunately, not right now. There's only one, so you can only pull up one at a time. But it is an infinite canvas, so she could save something above it, and then on it, and then pull down. Yeah. So we're gonna play with the whiteboard next.
Okay. And I'll write that on there, infinite canvas, so I remember.
Yeah, this is a bit. This one here.
But are you going to show a class panel? Like, if you were to do, hook the airplay the iPads.
Yeah, we'll show that on
There's a
ActiveCast.
way to do more than one iPad?
Yeah,
Okay.
4.
Okay, so
And then 4 would be more than enough.
Can you have two colors?
Yeah.
I mean, so I was like, I'm over here, I'm in red, so I'm scribbling here. But then I want to go over here and I want to do blue instead.
Yeah. So this is Annotate was open, so if you're just on your whiteboard, you can. And we're gonna, so you can, so write with your blue.
Alright.
And then you can change it to red and write. Or if you want 2 students up here at the same time,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
you push the dual user and they each get their own pen tool. So I could write in green while you wrote in red.
And is this, like, I have math.
Yeah.
Products, is math compatible?
Yes.
My iPad?
Your iPad is not with the whiteboard, but with the panel, yes. So you could cast and show up. And we'll talk a little bit
And
about that.
I could write on top of it.
Yes, if you have it up. It's hard because as of right now, if you're writing on your panel, it's not going to show up on here yet. They're working on that.
Oh, on my iPad?
Yeah.
But I could come and write on here. I could project something
Yeah.
from my iPad and write.
Yeah.
Okay. Is
So
there
you
like
could
an
hardwire your iPad
And you
to
could
it,
project
and then-
something from your iPad and then just write on the panel.
But if I have like a notes app or something,
Yeah.
can I, will it show? Okay.
Yeah.
And then is there like an auto, I'm a math teacher, so I love straight lines and all that. Is there auto?
Yeah. So I'll definitely pull that up for you. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the whiteboard. The whiteboard's my favorite feature, so I like to get into that. But I wanted to show you guys just the simple tools first, so now we can spend a bulk amount of time on the whiteboard.
Because I was playing with the protractor and
It's
the
so
ruler
amazing.
and
Yes,
all that
you're gonna
stuff.
love it.
It's
You're
just
gonna
like,
love
yeah,
it.
it's cool.
Saving them, there's a way to save folders?
Yes. Yep. All right. If you want to take a seat, we'll get into our whiteboard tool.
She moved it down there.
What I do?
We're trying to figure out what the whiteboard tool is.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And does it save on the whiteboard tool when you get there?
Yes.
Save to this or to the box?
Both. All right.
Pull up the,
Anytime you touch anything to type. Yeah. All right. Yes.
So, and I don't know if you're going to cover this, but at some point, I'm hoping you might cover how when we're on the whiteboard and we can write stuff, that there's an ability for it to be saved as text and where that goes.
Okay. Perfect.
Because I know that they talked about that when we were here and we looked at all the different kinds of boards.
Yeah. All right. So on the whiteboard, the whiteboard is one of my favorite teaching tools. I think it is the one thing that this panel has that is the easiest. Like, I can walk into any classroom that has a Promethean panel, go to the whiteboard, and I know exactly that I'm going to get the same thing in every single classroom. So this is just as if you had a whiteboard in your classroom. If you've had a smart board before, it's similar, anything like that. Your whiteboard, we're going to start with just the middle, the cursor button. The cursor is just like on your computer, right? Can I have someone come up and be a volunteer? Anyone? You get to write with a pen. Yeah? Awesome. So right now we have the cursor clicked. Go ahead and write your name anywhere on the board. Awesome. She is able to write with the pen even though we have the cursor clicked. Now with your finger, go ahead and move your name. She can move. We haven't clicked anything on the side. The cursor is still clicked. She wrote with the pen, she moved it with her finger. Now go with the palm of your hand or the side of your hand and try and erase that. There you go. So this is going to make you look like a wizard to your classroom. Thank you. You can go sit. This tool is going to make you look like a wizard. I can write all over it. I can move it, and I can erase without changing anything on my side. Okay? That's with any pen. This is the pen that comes with your panel. I can do the same thing with just a mechanical pencil with no lead in it.
Scratch it?
Nope. Anything that has a fine tip. I would advise against using like an actual pen that has a metal tip because that could eventually, if you tried hard enough, scratch it. Plastic works great. Also, the back end of your pen can be used as a fine eraser. So especially if you're doing math problems or something that you need a really tiny eraser, the back tip of this can be a fine eraser. Also, the back tip of my pencil can be a fine eraser too. It's all about sizes, all right? So this is all done in the cursor tool, all right? Now, if I want my finger to be the pen, because right now my finger just is the cursor. If I want my finger to be the pen, I need to switch to the pen mode, and that turns my finger into the pen. I can still use my pen, and I can use my finger, all right? So whichever mode this is, that dictates what your finger is, all right? The next step down is my highlighter. That makes my finger into a highlighter. Now, what if I want my pen or my highlighter to be thicker or smaller? All I need to do is I need to click on it again, and I have lots of different sizes, okay? Same thing, I have different colors. If I want more colors than are there, I push my little artist's palette, and I can have even more colors. The same goes for my highlighter. I can have more colors of highlighter. All right, so those are the first three things. You have your cursor, you have your pen, and you have your highlighter. When you're on the cursor, I'm able to pinch and zoom. So I can use two fingers, and I can pinch and make my whiteboard small, and I can zoom. Now, as you can see, when I'm moving my whiteboard, I get this little box in the top corner. This shows where I am on my canvas. This whiteboard is an infinite canvas. So what that means is I can start a lesson or start notes here, and I can just scroll away from them and continue to write all day long. I can also find it then if I need to get back to where I was. All right? With my finger being my cursor, I can also move text individually. So whatever I wrote at a time, I can move. A tip on this, if I write my name quickly, I can move it together. If I write my name and I pause, and then I'm talking while I'm writing this one word, it's all going to be moved separately. It's about a 2 to 3 second pause. So if you have a student who writes and then stops and then writes and then stops, sometimes those words won't be connected fully. It might be a good thing, especially if you teach a younger grade. It would be helpful when writing CBC words to be able to move the pieces, not just the word. So if I took my time and paused between each letter, I'm able to then move the word apart instead of just moving the word, okay? All just preference. Pinching and zooming, I can move around the board. Now, as I said earlier, this panel has 20 points of touch. So that means that I could have 2 people with 10 fingers writing on this at the same time. Now, how many students do you think could fit up here?
I could have 15.
Okay, yeah, you could have a lot.
What size kid?
Yeah, exactly. So even though I can have 20 working up here, 4, 5, 6 might be more comfortable trying to be up here without having a line, okay? So that is just our pen tools all the way down. Erasers, I can click on the eraser, it makes my finger an eraser. I showed you that you can have your palm erased no matter what. And then this little button that looks like a square with an eraser, that is my erase all. All right? So, yeah.
Having that many kids up there just drawing all over it, can you break it that way?
No, these are really, these stands, so this stand in particular, we had one of our salespeople try and like tip this thing, and if the wheels are locked, it took two like 260-pound men to try and tip this thing over, so it's not going to tip.
Yeah, but I was just wondering, but just the drawing all over it would cause it to glitch? Or...
No, it's made to have 20 points all the time. Yeah.
Okay, so I just took a whole whiteboard full of notes.
Yep.
And then I picked them up, you know, as we do, sometimes write some on the board. And that kid hit erase all.
Oh, man.
Now what?
And then you're like, no, that was my whole day. This has a back button that gets everything back, even if I press erase all. The only time that I can't get something back is if I fully go up here and close out of it. If I close out of it completely, not just going to my menu and going home, if I do that, I can still go back, I can still mess with this. If I close out of it completely, that gives me a new whiteboard. So if they were to do that, but if they know how to, are they really going to know how to do that? Probably not. Yeah.
So I was using the pen the other day a lot, right? Then all of a sudden, like the touch didn't work.
Okay. On your.
On the, so that, the touch just went away.
Huh.
And the only way I could get it back was to reboot the whole thing.
Okay.
Is there something on there that you could hit accidentally that makes it just work with the pin?
So the no touch definitely is something.
That wasn't on. I checked that.
So you couldn't write with your finger, just with the pen?
Even when I went out of that, the touch wouldn't work.
So it might, depending on what you're in, if it's in the cursor, I can't write with my finger. I can only write with the pen. So if I have it in the pen mode, I can write with my pen or with my finger. Okay, so it depends on what mode you're in.
But my thing is, even when I went out of that, it was the touch wouldn't work.
So when I go out of this, so say I'm in the cursor mode,
Right.
and I go out of it, and then I go back into my whiteboard, it stays with whatever I had.
Right. No, I get that. What I'm saying is, when I was using
anything,
I'm out of the whiteboard, it's turned off.
Yeah.
The whiteboard's turned off, my touch wouldn't work.
that might just be a glitch, or it was going through an update or something like that. So.
I just wondered if I get something.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
I've also noticed on a couple of days that as I'm writing with a pen, like sometimes a portion of whatever it is I'm writing doesn't show up, and so I have to go back and write it over again.
Okay.
And so I don't know if maybe I'm accidentally putting like my fist or, but I mean,
Yeah. It's not unheard of. So even though we try and make these as natural as possible, sometimes either it's not on all the way, or you pick it up and then it, you know, like, so it's, a lot of it is just, writing on the panel is very different than writing on a page. Because when I write on the panel, I try and back my hand up so that I'm not touching anything else. Because if I'm writing with this, if I'm in pen mode and I'm writing with my pen and I'm dragging my hand, it's going to have more than, it's going to do double. Or if I pick up my pen at all or shake it a different way, it might jiggle. So one way to get around that is actually using your finger. A lot of times ends up being a little bit more flush. All right, let's work. What time is it? Let's work a little bit on this. I've showed you from the pen tool all the way down to the erasers. We haven't gotten into the math tools yet, and we haven't gotten into anything up here. If you want to explore that, you can, but I want you guys to have a chance to actually come up and write on the panel, draw on the panel. More than one of you can be up here at a time doing it. There's 2. So why don't you come on up, at least just write your name up here. Try and use it. All right? I'm going to be over here. If you have questions, come on over. Even if you just got here, try and stand up and write at least your name. Write something on this panel. You can use pens. You can use your fingers. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, not that our middle school kids would ever do anything like this, but with the screen mirroring and without them needing a code.
You have to approve it.
They still, because she was able to go in there without a code.
Did she press approve?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Were you using? Were you using?
But I can do it on my Mac also.
With ActiveCast or with what?
With screen mirroring.
Will you try it?
We clicked allow.
You clicked allow? Oh, okay.
Oh, you did?
Okay, yeah. I'm like, you have to click allow. Yeah. I'm like, you have to click allow. That's the. Okay. Yeah. You have to press allow. Yeah.
But it's so with your phone,
Yeah.
you use that QR code that's on there? Is that how
I
it
know, like,
works?
if I'm sitting on my computer and I have it typing on the screen, like on a Google Doc, and I have to see, is there a way that I can keep kids from being able to Bluetooth as well, so that they're not
Yeah.
messing?
So you can, just like what she was saying, you can make it so that you have to click allow for any device that tries to hook up to this. So there's a security measure.
Every single time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So looking at this, I see that someone pulled up the backgrounds, which are awesome. Let's look at our backgrounds. So we've talked about these tools so far. Let's go into our backgrounds. Our backgrounds are here. It looks like a hashtag in a cage. Okay, that's the best way to explain it. You have lots of backgrounds here. You have graph paper. You have lined paper. You have music paper if you teach music. Now this, it's the same thing as before. I can pinch and zoom. So as I'm drawing on my graph paper, I can pinch and zoom. I can start plotting on my paper. I can be drawing lines. And I can still make this bigger and smaller. The X stays exactly where it's at.
What's that little box that keeps coming up every time you touch?
This box shows where I am on the screen. So it's an infinite canvas. And this shows me where I am on that infinite canvas. Now, especially with the lines, sometimes it's hard to see this blue color, right?
Do they have like for like the real young kids, like kindergarten, first grade, like the whole right on the line, draw the picture of?
It doesn't have the picture above, but it has the line. But you could add the picture above.
Does it also have graph paper like with an origin, or would you have to?
You would have to draw the origin. So the thing that we have on this whiteboard, this is supposed to be just super instant, super user-friendly. It doesn't get into all of those little components because those are things that you could do on like a Google Doc or on your computer. We wanted to keep this as simple as possible so any student could jump up and just start writing on it. This is just to pull in that engagement and have your students own this space. On your backgrounds, I can change the color of the lines. I can also change the color of the background. So on this, I've changed it so it has a black background. Any of the colored dots are the background. Also, anything in the squares or the rectangles are the lines. So a lot of times those blue lines are hard to see, especially in the back of the room. I can change it to black, and then you can see when I get bigger or smaller. When I write my name on this line, it grows with my pinching and zooming. I can also move it to a different, so if I was writing with my class, writing sentences and pulling them apart, I could do that. All right? That's in this little hashtag in a box. Also, below it is called our charts and templates. It looks like a mountain range with an L next to it. There are pre-made charts and templates, such as a coordinate plane. So if you wanted the X and Y on there, you could pull this up. These I can move all over the page as well. Like I said, with the infinite canvas, I can hide something. I can be working on this, and then I can go get it when I'm ready for it. I can still pinch and zoom and move this around my page. And anything that I plot on top of this, anything that I write on top of this is going to stay with it. Okay? So this all stays with it until I erase it.
Can you have multiples of those on?
So if I were to pull up, let's make my screen brand
Did you
new.
delete it, you double tapped, or?
Yes. So if I'm going to pull something up, if I want to get rid of this, I can't just press erase. That just erases pen strokes. To get rid of it, you just touch anywhere in the middle of the object and then throw it in the trash. So to get to that, I went to my gallery from my mountain range. I clicked on anything that I wanted. I can move it. If I want to, I just go get another one. Let's say I want a blank one. So I have my hundreds chart. I want a blank one also so that they have to fill it in. I can have multiple things. Yeah.
So Katie, I use like a PDF for my math book. Is it possible to have like that in the background and still be able to use the whiteboard at the same time?
So in your charts and templates, I've said that this is the pre-made ones. This is what Promethean thinks you might want or need. You also have your gallery. Your gallery is anything that you've saved onto your device. So these are things that I have saved onto the panel or onto my flash drive. So in this case, it's onto my flash drive. I've never seen this panel before. So I have all of these things that I've created that I have in a flash drive that I can pull up. For example, if I were to have a worksheet, let's say I have this that I created at home. I saved it as a PDF or as an image. I can pull this up and have it in the background. Let's get rid of these.
Are there any file types that it prefers, or
it prefers PNG or JPEGs are preferred as a PDF. So PDFs can work. It's easier if you save it as a picture, though.
On a browser, like you have it in Chrome. Can you still use the whiteboard? Because I've used the annotate in the background, but I haven't figured out how to use the whiteboard with it.
So what he's asking is if I'm in a browser, so I'm up here in Chromium, and I want to just draw on top of my PDF that I have up, I can use the annotate tool on top of it. You cannot pull the whiteboard up. Now, this is jumping a little bit ahead, which is good. If I'm on here and I'm looking up a tree and I want to look up an article about trees, and I want my students to, or if this is my JPEG, or I mean my PDF, and I want words for them to read, but then I also want pictures. I can take a screen capture. Now, when I press capture, it asks me to crop it so that I don't have to have all this stuff in the background. I can keep it if I want, but I can also be picky about what I want. When I press done, I can send it to my whiteboard. This is how then you could use your whiteboard on top of that PDF.
Is that now automatically saved in where you went to your gallery?
It doesn't, just because it's a screen capture.
Okay.
If you wanted to save something directly into your gallery from the internet, so let's say I want to save a picture to always come back to, like the map of California is something that I might, let's turn that down. A map of California is something that I might use more than once. I'm going to search for it. I'm going to go to Google Images. Now, when I'm in Images, it's helpful if I go to HD, because this is an HD panel. Sometimes the others look really grainy and just not the greatest. I can pull up any map that I like, wait for it to load. All I need to do is hold this image. Now, there's two different things that I can do with this image. If I think I'm only going to use it once, like just for today, I can press share image, and I can import it into my whiteboard. Okay? So that's only if I want to use it today. That's like a copy-paste tool. If I want to use it more than just today, like what he was asking, I still just hold it, and I press download image. It will ask you for your permission the first time. This is where I change my name. If I don't change the name here, this is the only chance I get, so just make sure it's something that you can find. Map of California is perfect. Then when I go back to my whiteboard, I can open it through my gallery. There should be somewhere now.
Organize your gallery into folders?
You may, yes. That was a question that someone else had, I believe. When you're in your gallery, up here, the 3 little dots, I can change my view. I can also organize my gallery, not my charts. I can organize things into folders. I should. I'll have to play with that after, because I know that you can. So now I have a bunch of junk on here. I can just find a new page if I want. So there's 2 to do a mouse.
So you have to pull it up like you're going to try later. You have to probably push with 2 fingers, right? And then
to pull.
To maybe make folders.
To organize the gallery?
Yeah, I'll have to see and play with it because I've done it before, but yeah.
How do you find out how much space you're using up when you're downloading things?
In your settings, there should be a way. In your storage, so right now there's only 14%.
So it's only 54 gigabytes.
It's, well, that's only 14% is used, so yeah.
So when you screen captured that image that you had there, do you have to save it to the Promethean board, or can you save it to like your Google Drive?
Good question. So when I screen capture something, I want to just take a screen capture of this. I have to first open it in my whiteboard. That's where it always sends it to. Then I can save this. So when I want to save, I press the 3 little dots. It looks like a skinny snowman. Okay, it's over there. Save as saves it to my panel. So if I do save or save as, this saves it to my panel. The way I can tell is it says PWB. That means Promethean Whiteboard. So if I save it to my panel, I can only use it on the panel. That is good if you're taking notes that you want to add to every single day. If you want to export it because you want to send it to a student who is absent, or you want to refer to it at home, you're going to export it. Export PDF screenshot or export PDF canvas. Now, we looked at that little box up here, right? With the red box inside of it. The red box is your screenshot. Your red box is what's in, it would be saving what's in just this little red box. So if I did PDF screenshot, it would only do what's in this red box. If I tried to export my PDF canvas, it's going to export the whole whiteboard. So anything that's on any part of this document. Yeah?
If you've got it annotated, will it take the annotations with it?
Yes. So if I'm on my screen, if I'm on the internet and I've annotated on top of this, and then I screenshotted it, capture, it will take those annotations with it. And I can open that in my whiteboard to save. Okay? Then this, I would export PDF canvas or PDF screenshot, and I would save it to my device. I could Bluetooth it to my computer. They're currently working on just importing directly into Drive. Google has a lot of like lockdown permissions on that, but it's coming. So as of right now, I can save it to my device, which is plugged in, and I can pull it back up on my computer. Yes?
Can you push it to your Google Classroom?
Yes and no. The easiest way to do it right now is just with a flash drive, because the permissions are really tricky. So sometimes it's that people have been able to do that, but then they can't get back to it. So not directly. Save it onto the drive, save it onto your flash drive.
But maybe if you're working with the Chromebox, you could.
Yeah. So if you're working in your Chromebox, you would be able to save directly to your Chromebox or to your Google account. Okay?
So question back there.
Yeah.
Because I'm a teacher and I have superhero voice, my wife to no end. So your Chromebox mine's not hooked up, I think, my Chromebox. So we
This
all
one's
will
hooked up.
have a Chromebox on the back of these suckers that
Yep.
allows us to give Chrome functionality to these boards. So you can use your Excel, Sheets, whatever drive and all this stuff.
So the Chromebox is a computer that is just attached. It's a separate computer. So this is what it looks like when it's plugged or when you log in. So on the other side, on this panel is not plugged in yet or logged in yet. So someone has to log into that for that Chromebox to work. This one is just what it looks like. IT has already logged into this. It looks like your Chrome screen looks like. I can pull up the internet. I can pull up my Google Sheets, my Google Drive, any of that right from here.
You guys might need to turn it on. It's on the back of the
To turn it on, yes. To turn it on, it's just the very top of the box. The first time I did it, I had to take my cell phone with a camera so that I could see what it looks like. But it's a flush button on the very top.
Turns off every night?
It does. So right now, IT has it set up to idle if you're not using it. So I'm working with them to hopefully get that changed, because it does turn off if you're not using it. Yeah.
What's the advantage of doing that way than just getting on, the web?
Yeah. So the benefit of going through your Chromebox instead of just going to your Chromium, the Chromebox is a little bit more robust. It has your Google Drive and your Google Sheets and stuff that aren't on the other. Yeah.
Plus, when I tried to go through Chromium, when I tried to get into my docs, it prompted me to download an app. And when I tried to click on the app, it said Google Play not supported with Chromium.
Because your students your district has Google Play locked down, so you cannot download any different apps because of the students usually. So to get around that, you can open your Drive, your Sheets, all of that through your Chromebox, but not on your other. Yes, so this works just like your own personal computer. So if you wanted Spotify, you wanted Pandora, you wanted Class Dojo, any of that to live in the background, you could pull it up on your Chromebox. Yeah.
I have a question about your Drive. So I've noticed that it has a really different interpretation of what's a recent document than on my.
Yeah, I don't know why that does.
And so I feel like I have to go through and take all my documents now and put them in folders because I have really weird.
I don't know what's up with Google Drive lately. It's been interesting. I've noticed that as well. Okay. So, the cool thing about your panel is that even though I have this Chromebox that I am working in and it looks just like a computer, it is a computer, I can still pull up Annotate on top of it. I can still screen capture this and save it into my whiteboard, and it sends it directly back to my whiteboard. So it's all living together. You're not having to switch back and forth. It can all live in harmony together.
It just popped you out of it, though.
So it popped me out of it so that I could go to my my whiteboard.
And then to get back?
I just go back to source, and it's right there ready to go. Okay? Yeah.
I saw you typing on a small keyboard, and how did you get there?
So anytime I press anything to type on, the keyboard will pop up.
Oh, ours is spread across the
bottom. If yours is spread across the bottom, this little box within a box, it gets it to float. And then to move it, it's just this little weird, yeah.
I think also a good tip is to show how to turn on the touch keyboard if it's not on.
Oh, good call. So let's look over on either of the panels. If the touch keyboard is not on, because sometimes when you get to your panel, it won't be. Down here in the bottom corner, so say I have, that did not show what I wanted it to show, go away. Say I want to be able to type in my email address and it's not popping up. I don't have a keyboard. I touch this clock and then the little man, which is the accessibility. I will go down, scroll to on-screen keyboard, and make sure that it has a green check mark next to it.
And the first time you use it, you have to.
Yeah. Because if not, when I try and type, I'm not going to have a keyboard. And then I'm going to be so frustrated trying to log in, having to call IT. All I had to do was go to my on-screen keyboard, okay? Or call another teacher in the room who remembers how to get there. It's through your clock tool.
And we had 4 computers and none of those were on. So everyone's it's frozen.
Yeah.
So if I don't have that stuff on the bottom of mine, that means I'm not logged into.
Because you don't have what I have on either. We don't have the Google Chromebox on.
Yeah, so it's just the very top of the box has a power button.
Well, if you have it, you just don't have it on.
Sure, right.
So to know if you have it on or not, this source button says HDMI 2. If it doesn't say HDMI 2, if it says, here, I'll just turn it off. If it says no connections, we'll see if that works. No, it's still on. It might say no connection over there. That means that it's off.
Okay.
So you'll have to plug it back in.
You
You just touch the
Okay.
top, yep. Okay, so back to screen capture. Some things that we could use screen capture for, we've already talked about with PDFs. Another thing that I've talked a lot with teachers about is, oh no, where did it go? Maybe we were in Chromium.
You brought up the whiteboard on top of the browser?
Yes, so all of our Promethean apps that live in this panel or in the menu, you can pull up on top of the browser. So remember my spinner and my timer, those can float on top. My annotate can float on top. Anything can float on top of my browser.
How do you do the whiteboard on top of the browser?
It covers up.
It covers up the whole screen, but yeah. So looking at like math programs and curriculum, some of the materials that, let's just view this. Some of the materials that your programs have a lot of times don't have the best annotating tools. These ones that we have just live right inside of the panel. So let's go to a page that I could actually annotate on. So let's say I'm working with my class through this, and I want to start writing on top of it. I push my annotate tool, and it gives me this little box that floats all over. It has some similar tools that we saw on the whiteboard. It has the highlighter tool, the pen, my erasers. And once again, when I click on them, I can make it thicker. If I want to be able to highlight with a thick pen, I can. Maybe we're having great discussion about all these things, and my class is really giving me some great feedback that I want to keep. If I want to keep this, there's no save tool on this annotate. So I then take a capture to save all of that stuff that we did on top of my math. I can crop it and put it in my whiteboard to save, okay? Another reason to use the annotate tool is if you're on just any website. Curriculum's probably the most that you're gonna use this on, any of your curriculum websites. I can be writing on it, giving examples. But if you notice, when I am writing, I can't scroll also. To be able to scroll, I need to push this little eyeball. That gets rid of my annotations momentarily so that I can scroll pages. When I push the eyeball, the annotations are back. So keep that in mind, that if you're writing on a page and then you want to manipulate the page, you do have to push the eyeball. However, your annotations stay on the screen wherever you had them. So if you change pages, those annotations might not make sense anymore when you pull the eyeball back up.
Is this where that freeze button would come in handy?
Yes, exactly. So say I want to, let's go to my Chromebox and pull up a video that's really cool. So if I wanted to show a YouTube video, I would go to my Chromebox because it has the fastest internet. It's the most 4K compatible. So I want to pull up this thing called Peru 4K. And it's this video that I want to show my class. All right, and I want to show them this video and show them like just how cool my screen is and the capabilities of it. Let's go to 50.
Can you pause it right on that too?
Yeah, so I can pause it right on the screen. So I can manipulate it right on there. But I really can see just how detailed and how amazing these panels are, right? You're not gonna have as good of an image if I just pulled it up through Chromium. This is through my Chromebox. Now, if I wanna be annotating on top of this, I can. I can be showing what to do. But then if I wanna pause it, I have to put my eyeball button away so that I can then annotate on top of it. Let's say I'm watching and something really cool comes up that I want to capture. Wow, look at that monkey. I captured it. I'm going to crop it down and I'm going to put it into my whiteboard. It freezes exactly when I said capture. It doesn't have any lag. The second that I push the capture button, it comes up. When I go back to my Chrome box and back to it's waiting, it pauses as soon as I send that away, so that there's not going to be a whole lot of lag. It really just tries to work with itself. So let's say you're teaching a math lesson and you really want to dive deeper into long division, and you have a really cool video that you want to show them, but you want to pause it and annotate on top of it, you can. Then you can screen capture. You can save everything that you do. Any questions? Yeah.
So I'm doing something that I haven't done before.
Yeah.
I'm doing a virtual field trip.
Cool.
So the ranger is going to be, interacting with us through the board. And so I'm just wondering, when I signed up for it, it said I'd have to make sure my tech department had certain things in place. Do I need to do, this was all set up before I had the whiteboard, so smartly. Do I need to do anything differently?
You shouldn't have to. It just depends. I would work with tech just to make sure that the capability works. But some cool things about virtual field trips, and you can do it through Rangers. If you go to Google Expeditions, you can do a lot of cool stuff on there, museum tours and things. Just remember, you always have that screen capture. So if you're on that tour, you can always screen capture anything that your students think is awesome and throw it in that whiteboard to come back to.
You'll need a camera.
Yeah. Because he'll, yeah.
Because it's also a microphone on it. There's no microphone.
Yep. So. Awesome. So that was kind of my capture and annotate tool. They go hand in hand with my whiteboard because it's all interconnected. If I want just a whiteboard to draw on and, if I just want to be doing things with my class on the whiteboard, all I have to do is open up my whiteboard. If I want to start pulling things from the internet, pictures, PDFs, things like that, that's where the screen capture, the annotate, and those tools are going to come in. Some things that we haven't talked about are whiteboard yet. Any other questions on annotation?
Whiteboard and turning on colors on and off. I saw a colleague do like balancing equations, carbons and hydrogens, and I think that you can color the carbons in one color and turn that on and off, right? Is that possible, turn that color on and off?
So let me try and understand what you're saying.
So if you're doing like a sentence and you have, I don't know, whatever, and can you turn individual colors on and off as individual things, or are they just another objects that you can drag around?
Yes, so you would just, like if I wanted to draw a bunch of one color, and then I could draw just a different color, and then I could move things separately.
You can't turn.
It's not, not really turning on and off. But a tool that I want to get to that we haven't looked at are our math tools. I know there are some math people in the room. So math tools, they live within the whiteboard. Right now there are 4 of them. The first is our ruler. The ruler, when it first pops up, is in centimeters. Can I have someone come up here and play with this? Anyone who wants to touch the board? Cool, awesome.
I played with it a little bit already. But.
So on my ruler, go ahead and just try and manipulate it, make it smaller and bigger. It's easiest, see how it's whipping all over the place? It's easiest if you use 2 fingers. So either on one hand or 2 hands. Okay. That's the easiest way to manipulate it.
Right back to set it to 0.
Yeah, so on it there are leveling tools so that you can see if it's absolutely flat or not. If you want to get rid of it, you push the X in the middle of it and it goes away. To draw a straight line on it, you just touch anywhere on the edge. It has to bring up that blue thing. If not, you're just going to be drawing a line above it, right? So if you touch anywhere on the edge, it will.
We've already had a couple geometry teachers come in and we're like, hey, we're talking about all those angles. And you can do different colors for the next 2.
And you can change your color. So whatever color you have selected is what color your line's going to be.
Talk about all those interior angles and stuff.
Perfect. And then also, however thick your pen is how thick that line's going to be. So if I wanted a super thick line, I'm going to make sure that I touch that pen tool and get that. Yeah.
So for the straight line, you have to use the ruler?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you for coming up. Another math tool. I have my protractor. So my protractor, I can move around the page the same. It's easiest to move if you touch in this little arc. Okay, if you touch anywhere on the edge, it's just going to turn. So you need to touch in this little half circle to move it. The protractor has 3 different tools within it. So when it has a red dot, if I touch on the edge, I can build an angle. So let's say I'm going to build a 40-degree angle. I can move it around, and then I have that angle. If I have the blue dot on, I'm going to build, oops.
Did you touch the dot to change color?
Yep.
Okay.
So I just touched the dot to change color. If I have the blue dot on, I'm going to get a ray that I can either make an angle with or whatever I need it for.
You can do that multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
or just once?
Multiple times, so I can make multiple rays. Okay, so that's on the blue tool. Let's say I put it on the green tool. The green tool is going to do my arc, my perimeter, my circumference of the circle. Okay, so if I want to measure an arc, that's what I use the green button for. Now, something about the protractor is it's really touchy. Once again, I was talking to our product development team about changes that need to happen on the whiteboard, and that's one thing that I said it's touchy. If I just touch the edge once and I don't hold my finger down, if I just touch, it gives me a full half circle. So all I did was I just touched it. I didn't hold and move. If I hold and move, that's how I get my angle. It might freak you out at first, especially if I put it up there and I touch it. Oh no, I made a mistake, but I'm still holding it, so I can just move it, okay? So don't get freaked out if it fills automatically. It is set to automatically fill.
If you move it somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets skewed, can you automatically make it go back
To where it was?
level?
No, and same with the ruler. They want you to be able to manipulate it just as if it was in your hand. So it doesn't have an auto level feature. You just have to get it back to 0.
Well, at least it tells you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's red and green.
So red and green and blue. Blue's your ray, your radius, and then green is your.
Does the protractor have an option like a ruler where you can do a straight line on the bottom of it?
I'm not sure. I haven't tested that. I don't think so. That's what happened when I filled the whole thing. So it looks like the ruler is the only one that has the straight. I also have my full circle. If you want to make a circle, like an actual circle for any reason, you can just touch the edge and there's a circle. So if you needed a circle for anything, that's the easiest way to get one. No, any colors. So I could make it blue.
Can you use the outline of the circle though?
Yep. So then I would just change it to green, and then it would just be the outline.
Can you custom colors, or is it?
As of right now, it's only this palette. That's another thing that they're working on is the limitless colors. So those are the math tools. Something really cool with the math tools. When I'm in this thing up here that we haven't talked about yet, it's called dual user mode. It splits my screen in half, and I can have 2 people up here at the same time working on it. They both have math tools. So why would this be necessary? Let me pull up something that I have I've saved this. I created this at home. Oh, it's on this one. I created this at home, and I've saved it onto my flash drive. And I'm going to open it up. I'm just going to open it through my gallery as a picture. And it's this challenge that I made. And this I can manipulate however big or small I want. And then I'm going to go to my dual screen mode. That splits it. Whoever's on this side of the screen can choose their own color and their own math tool. This person can use their own color and their own math tool. I can have 2 people simultaneously doing this activity at the same time. That's what simultaneous means. But I can have 2 people up here using my math tools. They can pass them back and forth to each other if they want, or they can both have their own math tools up. So it's whatever's easiest for them. Anything that is drawn on this side is going to be the color that they choose. Anything that's drawn on this side is going to be the color that they choose. So if I move across that line, it's going to change. Same thing for my math tools. So if I'm using the ruler on this side and I draw a line, it's going to be blue. If I pass this ruler over to this side and I draw a line, it's going to be yellow. So they really try and keep each side for each student.
I noticed that one doesn't have the little back arrow where you can just kind of hit it to erase one thing at a time.
Exactly. So students don't have as many options as teachers. They only have the pens and the erasers and the math tools. If you want to have all those options, you have to be in your own teacher taskbar. Another thing to notice, when I'm on dual mode, if I'm on teacher mode and I draw, let's say I'm going to write a lot of things up here, and then I put it in dual mode so that they can write on it themselves. If they try and erase things, they're only going to get to erase what they wrote. They can't erase what the teacher wrote. So if you wrote math problems up here for them to solve, they can't erase what you put up there, only what they put up there. To erase that, I would have to go out of dual mode and then clear my screen. So that is the rest of the whiteboard. That's brought us to ActiveCast. This is our last thing to talk about today. ActiveCast is the current casting software that we have. There's a brand new one that has just come out called ScreenShare that we're working with IT on getting pushed out to all of you. ActiveCast, as it is right now, you can only have 4 devices that cast up onto the screen. ScreenShare, you can have 24 devices in a waiting queue, and then you can pull them up, whichever ones you want. So those are a few differences. With this casting app, a few differences with this or with Apple Play or any of that is the security measures. We talked about it a little bit. There's 3 security measures. The first is the student has to have the connection ID to be able to log into the panel on a Chromebook. If it's a phone, they have to know which panel it is. You can have it generate a PIN code, and this PIN code can regenerate as many times as you want. So your student will have to see what the PIN code for that session is. And the last security measure is when someone wants to join, I have to press allow and allow them to join. So if someone left your class and they were in the bathroom or they were in the passing hall going to a different classroom, they can't just automatically push whatever they want up onto your screen. You have a lot of control. Another security measure, they both have to be on the same Wi-Fi. So if you have a student who's not connected to the Wi-Fi that the panel's connected to, they cannot just use their personal device.
So I have ActiveCast on my phone. I've set it up for my classroom one, but now I'm noticing I can screen to these.
Yep, so try it.
Okay. Is that something that will happen in any classroom that we're in? Like for those of us who teach in like 3 different
Yes, so if you have the ActiveCast app or you have it set up on your phone, you will be able to just pull up any screen. However, you'll need that code, and then I will have to allow you. Another thing is you have to have ActiveCast open. I have to be on the same security, I have to allow it, and I have to have it open on the panel. Otherwise, if my panel's off, it's not going to come up. So I have some people over here. Let's let you in. Let's let you in. So on this, you can cast just as you would with any other casting service. If I want to show one rather than the other, I double tap it. I can go out to see what I have on there. If I want to get out of that, I just double tap again. If someone starts casting something that is inappropriate or I don't want to see, all I have to do is swipe them up to get rid of them. Another thing, right now in ActiveCast, there's no touchback capability, so I cannot write on this. In ScreenShare, which has just been released, I do have touchback. I can write.
So ScreenShare works in our boards right now.
Does it? Cool.
And that app, you can try it right now. That app is the orange one.
Yeah. This one, these boards are not updated all the way, so they don't have it.
It's better functionality.
It's way better. ScreenShare is like.
And then you can have four screens at once.
Yeah.
So, well, you can do that here too, I suppose. But the touchback seems.
Let's see.
So,
Okay,
I mean,
so.
I would just open that app, and then I'm going to say I'm a teacher, and then I have to put in that code.
So this is the screen share that I was talking about. This panel has it, that one doesn't. So I went to my locker. It's right here. It's called screen share. It pops up. This is my panel ID. So if you have the app on your phone already.
And the screen share is different than ActiveCast?
Yeah, they live simultaneously right now. This is the better software, but a lot of it, some of it's still in beta testing. So I still have to allow, and then I can still swipe them up and down and around. That's ActiveCast, yeah. Go back to screen share. So on this, I get to choose who I want to share. Like I said, there's that waiting room. So will you show the app?
Yeah, it's this. It's the delay on it. So it's that orange.
So this orange, it's called My Promethean. If you have that app.
So if you click on it right now, it'll open up?
Yeah, well, and so that's what it looks like. So you say.
So you type in the panel ID.
Yeah, so you type in the panel ID, and then I can't see that. Show that.
Yeah.
But you type in the panel ID, then you hit a name, and then you hit start.
And then whatever's showing on your phone
will be up there.
That's
yeah.
Right.
So just like with that, I have to click on him and allow him, so I could have my whole class waiting in this, and then I could have it alphabetical, and then I could choose 4 that I wanted to see and pull them up, just like on ActiveCast.
So it's only, you can only see 4 at a time.
4 at a time. Yeah.
And then, so Rob, you just put your name there when you.
Yeah, I typed
when he typed it in.
And then, and you don't even have to you don't have to click the box. You can just tap the name too.
Okay. I was just wondering how we would know which Chromebook was up there, but.
Well, they have to
put their name in.
So, that's right. If it's my computer, I would download not the extension, but what I need is this thing called Screen Share. And so I started.
So it's right here.
We started that, and I posted that on the National Highway. We can talk later before people go. We want to all make a document with all these links on it. So I downloaded it to my laptop, and then now it's in the bottom where all my I have to explain it. But so it's a screen share there. When I downloaded the Chrome extension on my laptop, for some reason that didn't work. Maybe because you're still in production, but the app works well. What would you suggest to our technology folks to make it so that students can download the Chrome extension? Because the Chrome extension is blocked by students, no matter what, whether they're in class at our school or at home, they still can't load it.
So I would suggest, first off, your IT is going to have to decide which casting service or both that they're going to prefer that you use. I would suggest ScreenShare because it has a lot more capabilities. This is the older product. This will eventually be going away. This is just like a transition time for people who use this to get used to this. On ScreenShare, as he was saying, you can download an app onto an iPad, a phone, something like that. If you want to use your computer, you do go to share.mypromethean.com and there is an extension, or you can just go straight to that website and type in this code. It's all web-based, so you don't need the extension. I could type in on my computer right now. I could go to share.promethean and just pull it right up. I'll show you that. Questions as I do this? Yes?
Yeah, is there a way, so you're going to do that and then you put my name instead of your name, because that's the kind of kid you are. Is it going to save the actual user?
It will have the computer like whatever computer it's on, it will be saved to whatever computer it is. So say I'm going to write Betty because I don't want you to see that I was being sneaky. it'll still have the computer number. So if you know whoever's Chromebook that was, like, oh, that's Chromebook number 5, we're going to pull it up. Oh, it was actually this person instead. There's ways to track back to see who did what. It looks like I might not be on the Wi-Fi. Does anyone have the Wi-Fi password?
Yeah, if you go on here, you just type in NVUSD Wi-Fi. There's like Google Images with our password.
Oh, cool.
The 6th graders taught me that. I was like, oh, nice.
Cool, awesome. Let me just log into my phone right now because it'll be easier. So basically, anyone can go to that website. So if you have a computer right now, type in support or share.mypromethean.com. It doesn't matter what internet you're on, it should work.
Is it different than classical internet? It's different?
Yeah. Share.mypromethean.com. Yes. So then if you download that, that will bring you to be able to share your screen. So this is what your students will be seeing.
So we're going to have technology installed across the domain for students.
Yes. So I will be talking with Joe about that. How can we push this out to all Chromebooks so that students aren't having to do this first step? They need to be able to just log in, type in which panel they're on, and have it be done. Not dealing with all of the share.mypromethean. Yeah, so as of right now, you can use both. I would suggest screen share. This is your panel ID. This is saying that I have no internet. Has anyone been successful? Like on a computer? So being in the test group, you guys get to help IT with all this fun stuff of getting all the.
Chromebook right now, and I installed the extension, and it's not connecting.
Okay, so it's not working.
No, I haven't installed that
website.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, on Safari, I guess.
So it must be.
There's the Wi-Fi password.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's all right.
Okay.
So eventually it will look like this once I talk to IT and get it allowed for you. So I'll press download screen share because it just says screen share to panel on my computer. I'll just download that. And once I download it, it will give me an extension, which right now it's not allowing you access to that because you're not an administrator. But yeah, eventually it will come up with a little box in the corner that you'll type the code in, and it just lives in the corner of your screen. You type the code in, and then you're able to just allow for or ask for permission for your teachers to share your screens. A couple things if you are sharing screens. Why are we on ActiveCast? Go away, ActiveCast. If you are sharing screens, you can see anything that's on your phone. So for your tip for you, if you're using your own personal phone, make sure to turn off your notifications because you don't want like a text from your husband or wife or your kids to pop up and your whole class be able to see your personal stuff. So make sure that you have those notifications turned off. That's helpful. Something good for your students to know is that if you had them cast their screen at any time, you can see all their tabs open. So they have to be able to, there's less ways of being sneaky nowadays. So same thing, if I want it to be big, I just double tap. And if I want it to go away, I just double tap it again. Come on. If I ever touch the little man, it will go away. Any questions on this, screen share or ActiveCast? They're two separate things. They do the same thing.
So switching back and forth in screen share, I'm having display problems where it reverses my mouse buttons and where it's repeated, and then it also goes big or small.
Okay.
So those are display things.
Yes.
If you hit Windows P, you change the display options, duplicate and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's switching on me every time I go from screen share to my regular.
Okay.
So
That's stuff that I need to relay back to our tech team, because like I said, it's brand new, so they're still working, tweaking. So that's really good to know.
sometimes I can email you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Screen captures.
I would love that. Yep. All right. Are there any other questions before I let you go? I know you've been teaching all day and you probably want to get home. So, or go to another meeting. So if you have no further questions, you're free to go. If you have questions, stick around. I will answer them. If you need my email or want my email, it is.
You're going to send it to us.
Yes. If you signed the bit.ly, you can go to bit.ly/sign in. Oh, it's actually /CJ sign in if you haven't already. That will give me your email so I can send out different, things.
I watched a short video on YouTube about a teacher that was using an app on here that was like the random name. Like you just touch the button and somebody's name would come up.
Yep.
Where would I go to download that, and then how do you put? I'm sure once.
So go to your locker. It's the spinner tool.
Okay.
You'll just go down to you'll press create new.
Okay.
And then you can type in names. Okay, and then when you spin it, it'll just randomly
and you can
land on a name.
36 names?
44. 44. And then if you want it to only select each name once before it goes through again, you can click that button. Cool. If you have any other questions or you are just curious about the panels, learnpromethean.com. It has lots of information, and if I can spell Promethean right, it has lots of information for you. It also has videos that teachers have created, that our tech team has created to help you out. So Learn Promethean, Google it, YouTube, any of that, it'll pull up videos that help you out.
I took a document from Wayne that Wayne started on Promethean notes and that's online.
Yeah, you can make up to, it's infinity lists, as many as you want.
Silverado and Vintage, and if other people want to pass it on to their school sites, I didn't want to disturb the document we created already, but if we wanted to get everyone, I just did it's called Inter-School, so if you wanted to be on that document and just keep leaving notes and things, like we could develop a community of things that you learn and questions you have. I appreciate Wayne starting that, so.
Our elementary schools included.
And elementary schools too, so I just thought maybe you might want to.
Yeah, so if you want it to float, so if you want it to be smaller, here, let's get out of screen. ActiveCast. If you want it to be smaller, yeah, so it's in your locker. That makes it bigger, smaller. You can also just move it around.
Okay. So where do you go to?
So touch the names, touch where it says colors, and then create new.
And then when you save it, like period 1, period 2.
It'll just save on top of those.
Okay.
So you can make it, about making it transparent and all that stuff. There's a good video about it. You can make that thing go away. You can make it transparent. You can make it. Anyways,
There's lots of Learn Promethean. That's where all those videos that he's talking about. That you can get to that way on YouTube. Any of that.
Is ClassFlow worth it? What is for this? We were using, or is the current one? Is it doing? So it's Inspire is the old stuff.
Yep, Active Inspire is the old. Thank you. If you don't have any further questions, email me if you need anything. And like I said to the people who were here at the very beginning, they are still working on hiring someone to be full-time here in this office who works for Promethean and Napa together. So you will have your own Promethean person to go to for any questions very soon. So thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Can we go back to that board and allow me? I just want to see if I can cast.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's not, this is the older stuff.
That's ActiveCast, yeah. Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Toolbar for the whiteboard.
Yeah. So if you press the skinny snowman, toolbar position.
And you can, it just moves there and there?
Yeah. Not down the bottom. Okay. No.
And then the next thing is, can you hook up a secondary monitor to this? And let's say, and then on that touchscreen monitor, if I was facing the class like this, and I can write on there, it goes on.
You could, if you were using screen share, you could be drawing on there, but you can't, as of right now, you can't use a monitor, but you could use like a trackpad or something. So like on here, if I have this plugged in, I could still be writing on this. Like if I could be writing over here while I'm talking to my class, but not a monitor as of right now. Unless if you found just a device, like a tablet type thing or a big trackpad that you could just use the dongle with, you totally could.
Are you talking about being in the back of the room or away
Well, like
from
what I have,
writing?
like, have you seen my monitor that I have? So,
That's really cool. I would play with it and see if.
Because it's just VGA.
Yeah. So.
It's just a VGA output that goes right to an LCD projector.
Yeah.
So if I go to the VGA back here.
Yeah.
And then go to.
That's what, if you got something like this, essentially you should be able to. I would try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen anyone do that, so that would be really cool.
Then I can
stand there. Yeah.
Face everybody and they see that.
Yeah, that would be really cool. If it works, please let me know.
I'll let you know tomorrow.
Yes, good, awesome.
I noticed the quality of this cast is not nearly as good as
Nope.
Chromecast.
And that's why on screen share,
is so much better.
they've really fixed that on screen share. Because ActiveCast, like I said, it's the original, that was like their first attempt at a casting software.
And it's a bit of a delay if you're doing like video, but it's not a big deal if you're just sharing.
But
So
with
screen share, like we give the MI and RI testing. If I had everybody in class, the 24.
you could pull them up whenever you wanted.
And just flip the monitor back to the classroom, and I can see what everybody's monitor is while they're taking the MI and RI test.
Wow. There's software to be able to do that. Like, there's multiple different, on your own computer is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we,
Can you use text on the whiteboard? Can't you put like type text like?
Not right now.
like the keyboard.
Because that was the
feature
old
that-
Inspire.
And that's the old Inspire. And so you still can do that if you're plugged in or whatever, but as of right now, they don't have a text feature. That's something that we keep hearing from teachers. So we've told our product development team, like, we want this. So eventually, hopefully,
There
you'll
is
have a keyboard.
Writing to text app though on this.
Yes.
Isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
So will it do it on the whiteboard, or what does it do? It only does it on the annotation.
I think that it only does it on annotation or on, like, when you're on a website. Since there's no text box feature on this, so it doesn't have that, it doesn't think to pull it up.
Okay.
But yeah.
But it is possible to unclear that. The tech has to, or technology has got to get on that.
Yeah, and I have a list
Because
for.
these just are not going to work for students at all.
Well, yeah, because there's a few things. You need to be able to cast, and so either having them already pre-install all the extensions, like pushing it out to all the Chromebooks, or allowing students to do that. Also, the boxes keep going to sleep, and that's a problem to be having to turn it back on all the time. So.
Yes. Right.
When you say going to sleep, it actually logs you out.
Yeah.
What?
And it goes to it turns
How long
off.
does it take before it logs?
I'm not sure because it's just a
I would
setting
hate
that's
to be
on
like,
there.
You know.
If you're actively using it, it won't do that. But it's just like if it's
Or if
inactive.
it's my prep period, and it's
Exactly.
an hour later,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, crap.
So that's what I've been talking to Joe about, trying to get that fixed so that doesn't do that for you.
An iPad as a keyboard or something, or do you have to have one of those purchased keyboards?
If there are ways of setting up the Bluetooth, but the Bluetooth isn't super strong, because it can drop and stuff. So the beneficial thing about having this is just that it goes straight into the But
And can you hook up like is there capability to hook up sound Like
Yeah, microphone you can plug in.
external speakers.
External speakers. It's pretty. These ones are pretty loud, but if you want it louder, you can plug in external
We
speakers.
have to have a microphone to plug into these.
Or a camera that has a microphone.
A good webcam works great.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna need one too if you're gonna do this.
And that's any
And just-
external.
I just put one right on top of the
Can you
center
finish your
board.
sentence when you were just like, you're gonna need one if you do any?
If you do any, like the field trip she's talking about.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, or even if you wanna do a remote meeting
Okay.
with somebody,
Yes,
right, and you wanna participate in one of those,
okay.
Google Hangout, something like that.
Yeah, anything like that. So.
What's the